I heard Vince Tyra speak at the ACG event in May and thought his message about business value should be heard by the students at U of L. Vince is a Louisville native with strong business credentials and was named as University of Louisville's Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics and Director of Athletics on March 26, 2018. Prior to his appointment at U of L, he served as operating partner since 2007 for Southfield Capital, a Greenwich, Connecticut-based private equity firm that invests in lower middle market companies. He served as chairman of the board of numerous investments to include Halcon Corporation, RCR International, Total Fleet Solutions, and some others. He most recently served as chairman of the board and interim chief executive officer of Elite Medical, a company based in Clearwater, Florida. He has many accolades, including being a former standout athlete himself. So to answer he's from Louisville, so to answer the question that anybody who grew up in Louisville gets to ask, where'd you go to school? I mean high school, right? He went to Trinity, so you don't have to ask him now. He was a state top baseball prospect when he graduated, and he was inducted into Trinity School Hall of Fame. He's a 4-year baseball letterman and a 2-time team captain at some other university here in Kentucky, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in health administration. And I really do appreciate Vince coming today, and you guys should really listen to his message. He's got a great message. So thank you, Vince, for coming.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and really appreciate you all taking the time to come today. And as Steve mentioned, there's surveys at the end you can fill out. I've already filled out 6 or 8 of them myself. They're all really good. But seriously, I think that the opportunity to talk about things that are important to me sometimes, you don't always get the chance to share. And I think in this opportunity at the University of Louisville, coming here, I'm coming up on a year now. Which has been the fastest year of my life, I assure you. October 3rd will be 1 year here, from acting athletic director to interim athletic director to, as Steve mentioned, formally becoming the permanent athletic director on March 26th, and holding that role since. But it's been a quick one, and there was certainly a lot of challenges. But I took the role for a lot of reasons. I mean, I really do give a damn about this university. I grew up here, born and raised. My father was an All-American basketball player here, was our first All-American here, 2-time consensus All-American, and then went on to professional career in basketball at the New York Knicks and played in Chicago and what used to be St. Louis. So we've got good tie-ins here. I grew up running around in the old Freedom Hall and being around the athletics and being around this community a lot. My dad was a great giver. In a lot of ways. He did a lot of charitable events and a lot of things, and but he created a lot of values that I've taken personally and then applied them in business, and some of those we'll talk about today. But I've got my notes up here because fortunately Steve gave me enough time to talk quite a bit today. But I mean, I think that the first thing is when I took on this opportunity at the university, I came into this with the idea that I wanted to be a leader on campus and not just in athletics. I'd had opportunity to spend time in the foundation and then moved over to the athletics board moved over to the athletics position when things weren't going so well. I'll leave it at that. There were certainly some challenging circumstances going on at that time, going back to last September. But as Steve mentioned, I'm a former college baseball player. I was a pitcher. And one thing you learn about being a pitcher, you stay focused on the batter. So for me, how it translates from business to athletics and in this role is, in my life as a leader, I've always been focused on the batter. I don't worry about what's going on and how we got into that position. I never came out of the bullpen and said, how the hell they get on second and third, right? You just deal with who's at the plate. And I think I came in here saying I didn't really care what was going on with Tom and Rick and all the other issues. I knew there'd be things to deal with, but it wasn't going to impact the decision we were going to make today, other than maybe some lessons we learned from what went on and what was going on in athletics and improve it from there. So I think that same mentality has to be applied in business just like it would in your personal life. So you take those same values and you bring them to this opportunity like I have. So with that being said, The one thing that I did learn in my life along the way is, we all have our quirks, right, our idiosyncrasies, and I have a ridiculous love for problems. So from solving problems and having solutions, whether it was in student councils in grade school and high school, whether it's being a team captain along the way, certainly in high school as well, and then to college, if you don't want to solve problems, you don't want to get in those roles. But it parlayed when I got into those amongst my friends. I was the guy who decided where we went on Friday or how we were going to buy beer underage. But as you get into business, you get creative in those same ways, and you solve problems. But I think as I got in this role, we had enough problems around to solve, right? I think we all know that. But I think staying focused on where we're going and keeping things moving in the right directions is most important. And along the way, you improve how you do your business, how you make decisions, and you bring that team along with you, and you create that trust and respect, and it becomes a lot more fun. And decisions happen faster when trust and respect's around. If you have a roommate and you trust them around there, guess what? Your decisions, the way you live life is a lot easier, a lot smoother, and things get done. It's the same way in business, it's the same way in our office. So we have to create that, and if those that can't get along in that way, can't comply in that way, they don't need to be there. And I'm the referee in that athletic sense that if they can't be there, then it's my job to make sure they're not in the game. We've had to do that too. But today, I would tell you, athletics is in a really good position. Yeah, I know we make the paper for a variety of things and things are going on, but they're more historical, not today. The things that are happening today are frankly good. And I'm not denying that there aren't a few people out there who'd like it to be yesterday, but it's not. And we're working through those issues, and we keep everybody moving forward, whether it be with all of our constituents, whether it be you as students, whether it be our faculty, whether it be our fans, our donors, whether it be our coaches, and our own student athletes in that way that I'll try to differentiate, and in the athletic department staff. Because if they're not working to support all those same constituents, we're not going to make progress. We're not going to get to where we are. We're not going to have had the success we've had over the last year that I've been in this role and trying to guide people into good decisions and doing what is right and running a great department. So as I always say, I'm either fearless or I'm lacking self-awareness in this role. But we've dove into it right away, and I think that a lot of those leadership skills that I've developed or inherently had as a kid and through my adult life, we're applying to this role today. And what I'm trying to do is teach those same leadership values and core values in our department, creating professional development. So for those 20s and 30-somethings that seem to be prevalent amongst athletic departments across the country and is in our athletic department today, if you don't teach them how to make good decisions and put the processes in place for them to make good decisions, things happen like what happened here. So we needed change, and we've made change. And those values will stick. So long after I'm gone out of this role and the next AD comes along and others come along, wherever they foster their career, they'll remember what they learned here. And that's the thing that I've tried to impress upon our staff is that we're going to have professional development. I'm going to help you be a better leader. I'm going to help you be a better manager. So when those decisions come along, you don't get an upset stomach when it's time to talk about a problem or deal with it. You deal with it head on, and you make the right decision. You don't have angst about it. It's not uncomfortable to make the right decision. It seems like it's weird to just say, just do the right thing. Sometimes it's easier to do the wrong thing, go a different direction. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that is in life. If you haven't learned that, you will. Sometimes to make the right decision, whether you're with your peers in a different group, in a social setting, whatever, you got to have the guts to stand up and make the right decision. So as Steve alluded to, and I don't want to bore you with my track record of how the hell I even got here, but I've been fortunate to have great opportunities. I was running a small business myself in my mid-20s. It was going extremely well. Fruit of the Loom was one of our big suppliers at that time, and we grew, and they were curious as to how this company was outgrowing everybody else. And so they invited me to get on one of their customer advisory councils, and that led to, they had bigger problems down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and they invited me to come down and try to solve those. They didn't know how old I was, because you make good decisions, it doesn't discriminate on age, right? Make good decisions at 10 or 50 or 80, but at that time, they didn't know how old I was. So I got to a board meeting, and the public company proxy came out, and they realized I was 31 after they had named me president. True story. So as a board member was inquiring as to, is this right? Is this a misprint? So I think the thing was that what happened in my business, we just made a lot of good decisions. We were quick. We treated people well. We treated them with respect. And my idea about how to treat customers was, we're going to treat them so well, they're going to feel guilty for not calling us for the order. And that's how I feel here. The same with all our constituents. And it's going to be one of the core values I'll talk about later that we're developing inside our department, is you got to treat people so well they feel guilty for not wanting to be with you, not calling you to go bowling, not calling you to go to a ball game, not calling you to do anything, not calling you because they don't trust you, right? So all those simple things you take for granted in life, they really do apply to running anything, running any business, but particularly running your life and how you develop your friendships. But the one thing that I realized in coming over in this role from my business life and running public companies, multi-billion-dollar companies, chairman of the board, I deal with CEOs, and I dealt with some characters. There's plenty of ego in the C level of companies, right? And it's my job to get them back in line and how to teach them the same values, how to treat people well. And I'm not too proud to tell you my track record's good. Our investments, my investments over time, the companies I ran, have all been good. And it's good to be able to go out there because you develop credibility at that same time. That's how being at that age, at Fruit of the Loom, at that young age and taking it on, came to these other opportunities. You guys probably don't know Mitt Romney, the older ones in the room will, but that's who founded Bain Capital, and that's where I went to be CEO of a company for Bain Capital after turning around Fruit of the Loom and selling it to Warren Buffett. Go from there, 34 years old, right? Go from there, the next opportunity, things came along. I never had to interview for a job, including this one. You'll earn your opportunities. They don't come to you, you earn them. But what you do or didn't do, you're going to earn where you are in life. But I think that these opportunities came along to be a CEO of a public company, get involved in a variety of things, grow it, go on to get in private equity where we invest in a lot of companies, provided me a lot of experience on how to deal with all these different businesses. I love the mental stimulation of trying to figure out what's a good company for us to invest in and run. The stimulation of figuring out how you're going to test yourself to be right. And one of the things is when you're in there, there's generally somebody else looking to buy the company. How do you win all ties in that situation? By being a good person, by being able to relate to them, and how are you going to add value to them, right? So if you're going to add value to help them, they're going to choose you. And that's how, when we really wanted a company and we're trying to value them, we didn't always have the highest price. But we always came out with a great outcome because they trusted we were going to bring value to their company, bring value to them, and treat them well, grow them, give them professional development, and then eventually in private equity, as you probably know, you sell the company, you give returns to your investors. But having gone through those experiences, I learned a lot from being around a lot of smart people, because in business, it's not like I came up with those on my own. I was just a good listener. So, being quick to listen and slow to speak isn't a bad trait in life, especially when you're around really smart people. And I've been fortunate to be around really smart people. When I think about where I was and mentors in life, how to get to some of these roles and then move on through running big companies and then later become chairman of the board, as Steve mentioned. These companies were not all the same. Chairman of the board of Halcon, which is and the rail deals with the Class 1 railroads. Crew transportation, how do you get the railroad crew from one yard to another all around North America, based in Toronto. RCR International deals with window insulation products that are based up in Montreal. How to grow that to sell to the Home Depot and Lowe's up there, to fleet management company in Toledo, to just all these, dealer financial services that originate automotive loans for military personnel. Well, I'm telling you, and I won't wear you out with the rest of them, where I've been in as chairman of the board and we've done good things. What I'm going to tell you is leadership prevails across all of those. And if you have the same core values, the same leadership approach, you can go across these different industries. So when I took this job, I had a lot of donors and a lot of fans and people in the community say, what the hell does he know about athletics? He has no pedigree. He's never done anything. They don't know my background, all that. That was the part where inside I was laughing. I wasn't going out telling people, say they're all idiots. I got to prove that, right? My point is that coming into this, a lot of the dynamics are the same. We have finance, business office, we have HR, we have marketing, we have sales. All those fundamentals in athletics are the same as been any business I've ever been around. The uniqueness to this, what I did know and had to learn, was NCAA guidelines. Maybe you heard of them. They're pretty important, by the way. Dealing with the academic side of campus. Dealing that your revenue comes from fans and donors buying tickets. Normally you're selling to a bigger customer, what have you. This is unique. We've got over 8,500 donors in the athletic department and tens of thousands of fans, season ticket holders, right? I mean, now you're dealing with something where you're going out trying to develop a revenue base to sustain what we have in athletics and make everybody feel comfortable with that. Now, I know you're going to say, boy, who's worried about that? It's the fans and the donors. When I got here, it wasn't. It was the student athletes playing lacrosse and field hockey and cross country and all those sports that we're small sports. If we can't get the money out of the big ones, are we going to be around? Are we going to have the funding? I got coaches worried about, is my staff going to have to shrink? All those things. And that's what we worked our ass off to sustain. That we took away the worries. It didn't worth the time and energy. You all focus on winning. You all focus on making great grades. I'll take care of the rest. 99.9% about what you worry about in life never comes to fruition. So if you're worried about being late here at 4:30, you're worried about getting a C versus a B, you're worried about meeting somebody, you're worried about a friend, how they feel about you, you're worried about how you look when you go out, it all goes away. Feeling passes, right? Get to the meeting late, nothing really happens. Sorry, professors. Get to class a little late. In the end, you get past it, right? You work through it. It's a waste of energy. So I don't worry a lot. I just deal with what I can control. Stay focused on the batter. So my direction and vision right now today for athletics is really started with the student athletes. And I say that because I feel like if we're taking care of them and getting things going the right direction, the rest is going to fall in place. I think that's where I wanted to make sure that they're well aware, as I mentioned, that we're going to do everything we can to maintain their budgets. Everybody hears plenty about funding and budgets across this campus for sure. That was the thing we're going after. And I made sure when I looked through it, how does it all fit inside of our department, knowing that expenses aren't going up, they're going down, they're generally always going up. It doesn't matter whether it's utilities or our coaches' salaries or whatever it is, there's a lot of pressure to maintain. Tuition's going up, we pay tuition for all the kids, all those things are going up. How we're able to put a budget together and right-size our department. Frankly, we had a little fat, so we right-sized it. I went for 6-8 months without 4 of my 9 direct reports. Today, I'm the sport administrator today for basketball, football, baseball, men's golf, women's golf. I run the country club under me. All those things report to me today because I'm not putting the money in those positions. Got to make sure the kids are getting what they need. So it takes a little bit of effort, takes a little bit of extra time out of my life, but it's well worth it. And I think that as I've done that and try to go forward and get more efficient with my time, guess what's happened with the rest of the department? Everybody's cranking. When I have the administrative assistants come up and say, I can't believe how much fun it is to come to work again, that's what it's rewarding for me. I don't need something to happen at a board meeting for somebody to tell me that things are going good or somebody look at our financial statement and tell me things are going good. You just get a feel for it. I gave the analogy to Steve earlier for the older ones in the room. When I grew up and we listened to radios, yes, radios with speakers, they had dials 0 through 10 and had a little dial and had a white dash so you knew if you're at 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You turn it up. This is one of those things that has a dial, it just doesn't have the white dash. You got to, where does it sound right? So I think that as I look through some of these things and thinking about where we are in those and dealing with student athletes and where we're going, the one thing about, as I say, the focus on the batter, being a baseball player taught me a little more than I ever thought. It wasn't later in life that I realized like all these team aspects of baseball was pretty cool. Nothing against golf and tennis and a lot of individual sports, but in baseball, the one thing is you are a team player. You can't hit yourself ground balls. You can't warm yourself up in the bullpen. You can't throw yourself batting practice. You need a team. You need teammates. You got to learn to work well together. You got to sort out where they are and who you work with. And again, what is it? Trust. So you start all those aspects. And for me in baseball, being in that aspect of a true team sport, you learn it very quickly. And you apply those as you go on. Use your teammates. You got plenty. You got people living in your apartment or your dorm, wherever you are, leverage them. You know, one day they may be your mentor. I don't know that when I came to school that everybody said, oh, you know, Vince Tyra is going to be my mentor one day. But I do that with my own peers today. Guys I went to grade school and high school with and all that. You know, I do that today. It's part of the way I give back, is go spend time with people. And my family knows that I'll give coffee or lunch or dinner to a lot of people to give time. So I would say, like, you need to leverage that as well. And it's a good trait to have. It's a good personal trait to have. Be a giver. It's more rewarding. So I think that as we get into talking about how you apply these things that I've learned in my business, going to this, like what I've learned on and off the field. I mean, I could wear you out with baseball analogies and sports analogies and so forth, which I've given you some, but I won't. But I still apply it to what we're doing here. And things have not changed in the athletics in terms of our ability and our interest in winning championships. And that's the thing, is making sure that these teams that we have, that they're representing us well. I go into all the teams, is when I took this role, and I went to every one of them, one by one, all the coaches and the staffs in there. And I talked about we surely want to compete for championships. That's what Louisville sports is all about, for sure. But when I grew up and went to St. Margaret Mary, a little grade school here in Louisville, back then we had real report cards. We didn't get them online or emailed to us. But we had report cards. And being from a family where both of my parents grew up in union families, their parents didn't go to college or didn't have an understanding of why college and a degree was important to them. And I should have said earlier, I'm the fourth of 5 kids in my family. I'm the first to graduate. So I think that when I think about, I was going to take it in a different direction, but I guess just thinking about where we are and things we're doing with the championships and with the kids, that report card had effort and conduct down at the bottom, right? I don't even know if they do that anymore. They probably don't. It used to be USO, unsatisfactory, satisfactory, or outstanding. So my parents, since they weren't really academics, they just want to see an O, because they didn't know whether I was smart or not, right? They just figured I'm another kid being raised amongst the 5. So if they saw an O, their feeling was, to them, it said whatever grade I got was what I'm capable of. You gave outstanding effort, then if you got an A or a B, that's what you were capable of. And that's how they graded us growing up. Well, I'm the same way when I go in and talk to our student athletes and talk to our coaches and our staffs and to my staff. As childish as that may sound, I go in every time and I talk about effort and conduct. And if we're getting O's, we're kicking ass. I assure you, because that means we're going to win more games than our abilities will allow, because we're giving that effort and conduct on and off the field, in and out of the office. So if you went and talked to any of our staff, hopefully they'd be able to tell you that same thing. What does Vince harp on? Effort and conduct. I go back, we get freshmen in, I go to orientation, we have a new couple hundred kids show up. What's the first thing I start on? Effort and conduct. We start that culture here. Those values in our department with our people and with our students start here. You have to start a tradition here. It's not going to pop up on its own. It's the same way I feel about the students attending games and being able to get them there and be involved. When you guys go to basketball games, I've said it before, you go to these other schools and you see them up there cheering like crazy together and they're all in sync, and then our older fans sit there and say, why didn't our student section do that? It ain't going to happen on its own. We got to figure out as an athletic department how to get you into that position. Start this tradition so it goes on. Create those values of what we go and how we do, how we have a good time with the rest of the kids. Take you over to the volleyball center later this year, which you'll learn for basketball games. Teach you how to act like fools. Give you cheers, what your script is, what you do when they introduce the other team, what you do at this timeout, all those kind of things. In the middle of it, don't have to wait for a timeout. One cheer, I just want to be in the middle of the game. Whatever it is. Every game at the 14-minute mark, we're going to yell something stupid. UK sucks, whatever it is. That's the kind of goofy traditions that you guys will have fun with, we want to have in our arena. But those are the kind of things we want to get where we're all involved and you guys are having a good time together. So for us, going back to this, with these kids and what we're doing in our department, we're teaching this. We're certainly building the team aspect. We're going to win championships. Academics is huge. As most of you probably know, that we push hard on that. We're fortunate to have the Thornton Academic Center for Excellence. And we had 472 out of our student athletes, and you take in our spirit squads that had a 3.25 or higher. 472. You'll see it's the AD honor roll that will be introduced this Saturday at the halftime of the football game against Western Kentucky, and we'll have about 500 of those, if they can all make it, depending on their sport, trot out on the field, and we're going to recognize them. All 500. They'll come out there. But with these kids, it's also, I want to make sure that they know where they're going next, where they're going in their life skills. Not all of them are from Louisville, right? When I go in to speak to the teams, I say, raise your hand. How many are from Louisville? Very few hands go up. They're from all over the place. They're from all over the world. We have lots of international athletes as well as domestic athletes, if you will. I had 2 women's basketball recruits in my office this week. One's from Toronto, one's from Atlanta. They come from all over. I got to convince those parents we're their parents when they're here, and we're going to start teaching them skills they may not know at home. We're going to teach them etiquette. We're going to teach them how to tie a tie. Where's the salad fork? Simple things. Things that have gotten lost along the way. Those are good values to have as a person. If you're going to make it in life, how do we teach you what you should wear, how you should look, how do you interview? We'll do mock interviews. All those little things about etiquette and life skills, we're going to teach them that. And their career planning starts the first day they're here, just like you. You don't wait till your senior year and figure out what you're going to do in life. You start thinking about it now, and you narrow it down by the time you're a senior or junior, depending on what you're doing with your advisor, and then you go from there. Not everybody's so lucky to come here and decide what you want to do, and then it just works out. Start thinking about it. Figure out what you like. Find your fit in life, because then you'll find your fit in a company. Find out where you're going to add value. But I always tell people, don't go out and chase you get in a job and you say, this is what I think I want, and then you're looking for the next thing that makes $5,000 more. Why? Because you'll have a better apartment, a better car, and no more money to go out with your friends. You'll spend it all on something material. So find your fit. Whether it's making $100,000 or $50,000, find where you're adding value and find your fit in life. It's the same here. I say that about you finding fraternities and sororities. Find your fit. You don't have to be with this particular one or that particular one because that's where so-and-so is, or it's the cool thing. Find your fit. You'll have a hell of a lot more fun in life, I assure you. And then one day you'll get older like me and you'll look back and say, wish I'd have done that. But in all seriousness, I think that's one of the things I've been fortunate to do is I've been in a position to find where I think I can add value. And today, it's adding value to the University of Louisville. So as I get to this, talking about all these things that are values and culture and how you create it, I mean create it, because it wasn't all here. And I mean that not just in athletics, but even on the campus. And I'm happy to be partnered with Neely as we think about how to get this culture going in the right role. And as my son Cooper says, morale is up. Morale needs to be up here. We need it. So our culture of running a clean athletic program and a clean business, I know it starts with me, right? I got to set the role, set the example of how we're going to run a clean business at the top. If I don't have people respecting what we're doing and following the lead and making good decisions and doing it within a group, not in private. So we have regular meetings, we share, we do group decisions. And I always say discuss, decide, support. As we all get to discuss the issue, there's a decision that's made that's generally not unanimous, but there's going to be unanimous support. You can't have naysayers. And even as we're making very tough decisions in the university, it's easy to be a naysayer. When you say, oh, we got to do this cut, or we got to do that, or whatever's happening, that I get to sit in on some of the leadership meetings, you can discuss it 100%. But when you make that decision, if it's 80-20, 100% has to support it. You have to. You're not always going to be in the 80% in life, but you got to get behind it no matter what it is, particularly as we're going through very challenging times in athletics, but and across campus. But I think as you do that, things evolve, and guess what? More good people are going to find their fit and add value at the University of Louisville, because it comes back to the people. Because when I talk about it with our coaches, Who we recruit and who we hire are going to form our culture. Neely says it in a different way, what you tolerate will form your culture. But I think about it, I always thought about who we recruit and who we hire. You bring in good kids, you bring in good people, they come in, you're going to have a good culture. And when you're doing that, as I said in my press conference, when I took this opportunity, I think the grass is going to kill the weeds. I'm an optimist by trade, so that's why I feel like we have enough grass here to kill the weeds. And some of those weeds, whether they be problems, whether they be people, they're going away. And I'm certain of it. I can feel it. I got the dial turned where it sounds right. So I think as we go through this and we set our own core values, we have to practice them. I got to set the example, and I think we practice them. And Dean Meridian and Professor Ron Quinn in the back have been very valuable to me in my time here. Since I got here, I guess we first talked in December of last year? I was here maybe 60 days. It was clear to me we needed change. I hadn't been around an environment like this one, let me tell you. So without getting into all that, what I realized was we needed help. And one of the areas to get help was right here on our campus. So with Todd and Ryan, we quickly got together and started talking about ideas about how we're going to set better values, how we're going to create ethical leadership excellence and do it in athletics, but also across the campus. And that was the thing, is we sat together for numerous meetings and inside of our group, some of the marketing people and so forth, we started working towards a program that I'm going to talk a lot about. But what really came out of that is we didn't have core values in the athletics department, and we really didn't have really what our goals, what we really wanted to be. I think we know we want to win championships and all those things, but what is the real outcome that we wanted to have out of having good core values? What are the things we wanted? And we tried to agree on what those might be. Certainly winning NCAA championships is good. Not having any level 1 or level 2 violations in the NCAA is another one. You know, I like to talk about making sure that we were fiscally sound, that we were self-sustaining and what we could do, and that means assisting more on the academic side of the house, we will, and we have. We cut the student fee in half in the last year, and we offered another $2.2 million out of the athletic budget back to the university to help in its general funds to deal with some of the situations. And while that's going on, our people are doing more, because it is one university in the end. And I think we've made that clear in the athletic department. Everybody's bought in on that. You can ask anybody in our department, they're crystal clear that there's no moat between athletics and academics today. It's been filled in. But with the help of Professor Quinn and ongoing help, not just a one-time, I took our top 20 leaders in athletics and we said, let's do an offsite one day. Let's talk about what we really want to accomplish. Let's talk about our values and what we want to create here in creating a great environment. But I sent them off with Ryan without me going. So they went off and spent the afternoon, or I guess full day, Ryan, right? A full day, the 20 I'm going through, and we really processed what we are and what we want to be. See, they had already had a lot of experience getting in there, and I didn't want to pollute them. I'd done this with other companies. I could see what was missing. I just didn't want to pollute the discussion. Now, ironically, in the end, as Ryan asked them to kind of give up some of the things they wanted to see that we would accomplish in the 5 years, and what I had sent Ryan myself, independent of that, thank God they aligned in the end, didn't they? So you never know. But what that told me is we had the right people, and we had been through some changes. Our department had a facelift. But what it told me is we got the right team, as well as validating for me not to be there and pollute them. They came out with that same discussion and led them to the same area. And out of that evolved some values that we're shaping now. And as we go talk to all of our constituents and I speak, we're talking about what those values are, and they're getting shaped. So when you do walk in the athletic department on the 3rd floor of the SAC, and you look over in the little meeting room we generally have for donors and fans and student athletes come in, and we use that little glass room, and it's glass. The 2 walls are glass, and there's 2 walls that have graphics on it. That graphic will be covered with our values, right? I don't have to run around saying, you know our values, you know our values. They'll be right there. So anybody comes in there, if they're picking up tickets, or they're going to meet with somebody, or they're a vendor who wants to do business with us, those values are clear to every constituent we deal with. That's the way it ought to be. And we'll practice them, but we'll have them written on the wall. And just going through some of these, we choose integrity first. Sounds easy, right? We choose integrity first. But I think what it means is, certainly in winning, we want to win, but we're not going to compromise our integrity. Athletically, we're not going to cheat, right? Fiscally, we're not going to take shortcuts. Recruiting, whatever it may be, we're not going to cheat. We're going to choose integrity first. We'll serve our student athletes. We're going to be servant leaders. We're here for them. They represent what we are so fortunate to get to do here. We're stewards of the athletic department. We're stewards of the university. We'll be servant leaders. This means that we'll be accountable for helping our students become champions in competition and in life. So these are the kind of the definitions of these values that we are imposing upon everyone in our athletic department. We win together. That means if I trust and respect others, appreciate their contributions, and contribute to them, my team, the athletic department, and the university will be more successful. So when thinking about that, we win together. Each of these areas I'll talk about, we need to consider our constituents. As we make decisions, we consider our constituents, students, fans, faculty, athletic staff, donors, former student athletes. Think about how all our decisions impact those people when you're making decisions. You'll get to better answers. We all work in customer service. This means that even the small decisions I make affect how excited fans and donors are about the experience we provide. We need to service the heck out of all of our constituents. They should feel guilty for not attending games and supporting us. So that's why I've always had that in my view from my very first distribution business when I was 25 years old. As I kept that, I still use that. I want people to feel guilty for not choosing us, whatever it may be. And that's kind of your scorecard. Are you doing enough to win all ties? Are you doing enough to make them feel guilty for not showing up? Now, ironically, we had an incident this past weekend I thought was funny. I get harassed all the time about longer tailgating hours, right? Everybody wants the parking lot open for 7 hours before the game's not 5. So I said, we'll do a test. Now, as it turned out, Mother Nature kicked us in the butt with some rain, but we opened the tailgating lot for 7 hours. 1 hour in, had a picture from the terrace of the parking lot of all the green lot for those who saw it. 1 hour in, I benchmarked it, put it out on Twitter, knowing that people were just going to drive all kinds of conversation. They were going to be pissed at me. They were going to whatever. But what I read in there is, one of them wrote, and there was a bunch of likes on it, said, does anybody feel guilty like they let their parents down? You know, and that's what we want, right? That was the emotion that I was trying to get, is to send out there, not to harass them or next time and all that, because I knew where we were going with it. I already knew the answer was, we'll do it for big games, because that's when they want to come really be out there. They really don't want to be there every game at 7 hours. Now, there's some crazies out there, but not the broad mass of people. But I'm not going to put our people, because remember, I got constituents. I got people who have to work those parking lots to stand out there for another 2 hours in the heat. Is it a good decision for them to be there for those 8 cars? Probably not. We always seek to improve. This means I constantly work and encourage learning through feedback, education, innovation. We grow and be resilient as an individual, an athletic department, and a university. You recognize we have university in each of these? This isn't about athletics. We share the organizational playbook. You all can probably guess what this one is. The almighty transparency. Anybody heard that word around here? This means that I'm transparent as ethically appropriate with fiscal information and organizational decisions, because it enables faster solutions, builds trust, and motivates me to be responsible. So we talk about these things. Be transparent. What are we doing? We talk about the budget today in athletics in our department. Why we're spending money the way we do, why we put money over here, why we put it in this sport versus another, what we intend to do with the department, our decisions. I'm clear with not only inside the department, I'm clear with our coaches. I share with them. They may not all like it. I get that. Discuss, decide, support. Same guidelines for them. Same for our board of trustees. Same for the athletic board. Transparent, we'll go through it, discuss, decide, support. And then lastly, the one we have in here is we are fans too. This means I have fun watching Cardinal sports, which we do, and I make it fun to go to work in the athletic department because I'm proud to be here. So we have to wear that badge as an athletic department. We want it to be fun. We want them to be proud to be there. We want them to wear their swag when they're out in the community as much as on campus, that they're proud of what's happening here. What some people say now maybe 11 months ago when shit hit the fan, that they weren't so proud to wear that out when they went out to dinner and so forth. They'd go home, take it off, put something else on. We don't feel that way today, I assure you. Our department today, and how do I know it? Because I see what they're wearing to work. When I got here, I saw navy, I see brown, I see tan. I didn't see the women wearing any of the athletic department gear and the Adidas gear. Come over to our department and check it out these days. There's a lot of red going around. So leading to where these values came from, and even getting to where I mentioned working with Todd and Ryan, is we decided we were going to develop a program. We called it Cardinal Character. We had a variety of names. Well, trying to think about what the logo is. Those things were less important than what it was going to accomplish. And as I said, it was more about this ethical leadership excellence. And it's something that we are going to have a press conference about and announce and talk about what we're doing, because it will expand across into the students and certainly in other universities. When I originally came up with the concept, because we were the guinea pig, I could see the test monkeys sitting in my office. When I looked around and said, we need ethical leadership excellence right here. This is a way that we can put these things in place and we can figure this out. And we're going to make some of these really talented young people even better leaders, because we have some good talent in there. They need to be groomed. They need some professional development. And putting this program in place is not only going to make them better decision makers, but it's going to make them better people. And it'll carry on to the people that they bring into the department. But we put this together and we talked about it, about how we can create it and make it a program that's exciting. And then voila, John Swafford, the commissioner of the ACC, asked that I come present it to the ACC, to all the other athletic directors. And as I got there, I walked in the room. He literally starts the meeting and says, Vince Tyra, the new acting at that time, I think I was still under the act, I might have been interim, said, hey, he's got an idea I'd like to talk about, because this was in October, before I was really getting to figure out how I was going to flesh this out with Todd and Ryan, talk about this ethical leadership excellence. Because the moral compass is up in athletics. It's been up in business. Sarbanes-Oxley and all the things that went on that I had to work through years ago, back in the turn of 2000, Y2K, when we thought all the lights and computers were going out, all passed. But the moral compass in athletics is up more than ever. If you don't believe it, just read the paper. Not the sports page, just read the paper. You can read it in the Wall Street Journal. You want to read about Michigan State, you want to read about some of the schools, the FBI and all that's going on. Maryland, all the places are under fire today. Ohio State with Urban Meyer. You can pass your own decisions and judgment how you feel about those things, but I assure you the moral compass is up. And it should have been a long time ago, because I've always felt in business, one of the things we've brought over in the athletics is making sure people are aware that the moral compass is up. One of the ways we'll solve it here selfishly is working with our constituents in the School of Business to solve for it. And we've put a program into place, and we're launching that program where we've worked with this, and Ryan will continue on, and Todd has been a great steward of this, is how we go about teaching all these values, teaching how you make good decisions, how you challenge your decision making, how you think of others, how you think about what you want to do to accomplish a winning outcome, winning on and off the field. And I think we're off to a terrific start, which we'll get to that. And as I said, I jokingly said to Todd, what do you need to get started? Because I did talk to Adidas, right? They got stained too. The FBI said we were victims. Maybe we were, maybe we weren't. Maybe Adidas was, maybe they weren't. We had some bad characters out there, but I don't want those characters around our university or our athletic department. But I think that's what we talked about, is how do we get started, what are the tools you need? And we went back, I called Mark King at Adidas and said, we're in this together. If you're really a partner, you're going to help me in this partnership. We're going to help the School of Business. I got an idea around a program that we're going to put together for ethical business leadership. And asked him, I said, of our $160 million 10-year deal that we signed in athletics with Adidas, we said we'll take $1 million out of that, $100,000 a year, and we'll give it to the School of Business to keep this program going once we get it started, and then called Adidas and asked them to match that and give us another $1 million over 10 years, so another $100,000. Money's tight around here if you didn't notice. So that way we could have a couple $1 million committed towards the program, and then as Todd and them know, I gave the first $100,000 out of my pocket to get it started so we could get it started. So they cashed a check on the first day, by the way. But it was to get this program started and get it going, because we needed funding to get it going. We need something to kickstart it, and Neely picked in right from there, and off we go. So we have the program off and running. It's something you hear more about soon, and there'll be more to talk about it. So the last thing I want to say before I open up some Q&A is I hope you're comfortable with where we're going in athletics. I'm only giving you sound bites of it, but we're here to help all of you. I promise you that. And we're working well together. We're here to create leadership across the campus, not just myself, but all the people that I get the opportunity to work with. And we're going to continue to leverage all the great minds that we have both ways, from academics to athletics to academics, in the foundation, what have you, because we have to be in sync together to be successful here. That foundation has to support the strategy and initiatives in the university and with athletics to some degree and all the way around. That'll improve attendance in games. That'll improve the morale on campus and in the classrooms, I assure you. So it's a little bit of my story. It's a little bit of what's going on in athletics and how we've approached things. But I can only ask that you be supportive of what we're doing. We've discussed and decided there's a lot of support that's needed. I ask you for your support as well for what's going on in athletics and in the university. So I think we're going to have a little bit of Q&A if you'd like.
Yes, my Q&A, if you have a question, go up to the microphone, please, and you can ask there.
Thanks a lot, and I want to applaud you again for reaching out and connecting with the business school and putting money into academics. I want to ask a quick question. I want to make two very quick statements. One is, when I talk to faculty on campus, they have a lot of firm and negative opinions about the funding that goes to athletics compared to academics. They never mention that the athletics program raises their own money when they make those complaints, okay? The second statement is, if you haven't seen it, maybe you have, New York Times, I think in fall 2016, New York Times Magazine on Sunday, did a 6-page write-up about Alabama and how the campus, the academic side, has used the success of the athletics to kind of enhance what they're doing with academics. Here's my question. What do you see as an impediment or a couple of impediments to the U of L, using the success of athletics to enhance the academic side, whether it be national branding, whether it be developing better business systems here at Belknap? What do you see as some impediments, and especially in light of what they do at Alabama? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you started to answer you answer your own question, because I do think that, so today, ironically, the advancement office that Brad Schaefer has now assumed control of on the university, guess where they were today? In athletics for training. So I'm proud of our Cardinal Athletic Fund that does fundraising and works with a lot of the big corporates out there and what we're doing with them. It's just the twist on the initiatives have now changed. So we're in the midst of trying to renew an agreement with UPS. Guess what we're talking about? What else you can do for students in the campus. So those things have changed. PNC Bank, Kentucky Farm Bureau, all the different ones that we're talking about we're gearing more funds towards the university as much as to athletics. So, but also on that census, we are literally helping interview, train fundraisers for the university, and Brad was over with his team, and I got a wonderful text that I would read to you today on how appreciative it is. We've also given them Adidas gear. Brad, we want you to look like us, act like us, where we're in there doing shared events. For the first time, guess what? We had alumni and athletic events down in Orlando for the Alabama game. We had 1,600 people show up for that event. We did it together. So more of that has to happen when it comes to the internet and the websites that we have across the campus and making those consistent. I've offered up our sports information director and marketing people to participate in how to develop those with John Dries and his team. So I think each of those things, we have some great expertise, so that we have some talent. We have to keep leveraging across campus. And vice versa, like I'm doing, reaching out the other way to show our staff, if you need help, reach the other way, because we're under the same roof. But I think part of it is not waning. It's us taking the initiative and saying, man, I hope advancement raise some money and get some endowments going again. I mean, you're just being a victim of circumstances then, so we're trying to take charge of it.
Thank you for taking the job.
Thank my family.
Currently there's a debate among NCAA coaches and players, and probably your peer group, about whether or not players should be compensated over and above scholarships.
Yeah.
Clearly, a lot of five-star and four-star athletes, male and female, will get four-year degrees, but many will not. What is your position on whether or not players should be compensated over and above scholarships?
Yeah, well, there's two things. One is I'll start with, how do you know how much? My feeling is about them being compensated is when's enough for a 4- or 5-star player. That's why I'm a proponent of, if they want to go pro and they want to just do the one and done thing, I'd rather them just go on to the pro. I don't want them here. I'm not a big fan of the one and done, frankly. If they're going to come here, being a baseball player where you had to do 3 years is fine, and then they want to move on, they'd advance themselves, and they're likely to finish their degree. My concern is, how much is enough to make a kid who's going to sign a multi-million-dollar contract enough to give him? How much do you give him? The second thing that doesn't get talked about a lot is there is what's called the cost of attendance, and this may be a shocking piece of news for most, because every time I do talk about this, they've never heard of it. Our student athletes do get a cost of attendance stipend. So it doesn't get brought up, and when I listen to all these, the media and the sports writers talk about it, at the University of Louisville, it's $5,700 a year. They don't have the ability to go out, they put in a lot of time, they don't have a job and all those things like some other students do, but they actually do get a stipend. So there is is $5,700 enough to cover their expenses depending where they're coming from? There's a calculation that's used to determine each school's cost, it's called cost of attendance, that covers where they can get a bar of soap, an extra thing of food, a shirt, or whatever it may be, because they're not all coming from well-to-do backgrounds. But my concern on when you start paying the pro athletes, I think, or paying future pro athletes, is when is enough going to be enough to be, say a kid says, well, I'll go there if I can get $100,000, and then he wants $200,000, or he wants more, because generally a lot of the kids don't have an idea of the scope of the dollar anyways. They blow through it. 70% of NFL athletes are broke after 2 years out of the NFL. We're doing all we can to give them financial education, but I'm not sure throwing money at the problem is going to solve the problem personally. I think if that's their ambition, to skip school and not get a degree, to advance themselves in a different way, I'd rather them create a pathway to do their own thing. It's right or wrong.
Last question.
Hi, thank you for your talk today. You mentioned some of the scandals that are going just broadly within college sports and the increased moral compass. Is it challenging to convince people that we should be doing the right thing here whenever everyone else seems to be cheating?
Yeah, I think it's easy to look. It's always for one coach to look at another coach and what they're doing, right? I mean, to say like, gosh, that we know that school's cheating. We know what they're doing that. I hear that all the time from different advocates in the sports world. I don't really care. All I'm thinking about is what we're trying to get done here, and we've won championships in the past without it, and we'll win championships in the future without it. But I think that when I hear what's going on, and I try to get our coaches to talk about it, I bring it back home. I just try to bring it back home. It's just like raising your kids to try to say, well, Joey's got this pair of shoes, or Jimmy's got that, or what have you. It just bring it right back to, this is what we have available. And if you're not sending the message all the time about your core values and what you represent, then they don't need to be here, and I'll make it easy for them to leave. They can coach someplace else. If all they're worried about is winning championships, and they're not thinking about the process and what they're here for, the student athletes, and 88% of our student athletes get a degree here. I want that to even be higher. And if we get off center on that, then no matter how good they are or what we pay them, I'd rather them leave.
Okay, so U of L, we're really lucky to have you here, and you make the
Thanks,
ground to work here. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for the gift.